Hey, welcome to the channel, Adventures of Lost Man. Today we're going to be going over the roller coasters of Cedar Point. So come along with me and Ben here, and you can discover America's rock and roller coast. Like all coaster enthusiasts, I consider Cedar Point to be one of the best amusement parks, if not the best. I've been going to the point for almost 30 years, since I was a wee lad of about 10. I, like many people who frequent the park, have fond memories of experiencing your first roller coaster, or in my case, passing out on your very first roller coaster. But without further delay, let's jump right into the review. Note, I will not be going over rides that are no longer there. That means Wicked Twister. Not that you would have ranked very high anyway. I also won't be reviewing the hotels or the dining experience. This is strictly roller coasters. So I will give a short review on the coasters, including the kiddie coasters, and ranking them based off of my opinion. I do not find any of these coasters to be terrible. This is not a throwing heavy criticism slam fest at any of the coasters. This is simply how I rank them. Disclaimer, the ranking of some of these may be slightly controversial to the coaster enthusiasts. Starting off, I'm going to be ranking the kiddie coasters separate from the 48-inch and higher roller coasters, as I don't find it a very fair comparison. Number 2 is Wilderness Run. For those of you who are younger or are otherwise unaware, this was formerly called the Junior Gemini. It is located directly across from the Gemini in Camp Snoopy. Wilderness Run was Intamin's first roller coaster ever built in 1979. Has a lift hill of 19 feet and a top speed of 6 miles per hour. It is a perfect ride for any youngster hoping to be a coaster enthusiast. Funny story, 25 years ago or so, we were going to Cedar Point as a family, and at the time, the only roller coaster my younger brother was able to ride was Wilderness Run, then called the Junior Gemini. Literally standing at the station platform, I said, "This is stupid," and walked out and denied my brother access to the ride. He didn't return until it had been renamed, and he was also too tall to ride it without being accompanied by a child. That is until last year, during Halloween weekends, where he rode it, accompanied by a child that he didn't know. There you go. You see him on the screen right there. I hope that all your childhood trauma has been washed away. This leaves us with the number 1 spot, Woodstock Express. Honestly, I can't wait to go back to Cedar Point next year and ride this with my son. He will be tall enough to ride this accompanied by me, his mom, or his sister. Knowing that my daredevil of a son, he will love the thrills of this well-built family coaster. New for the 1999 season, built by Vekoma, this little coaster packs a surprising amount of fun in a small track. With a lift hill of 38 feet and a top speed of 25 miles per hour, it offers sufficient speed for step-up beginners. It also has 2 helix sections, one being a 540-degree downward and another downward at 270 degrees. Starting the list off for 48-inch or taller roller coasters at number 14 is Cedar Creek Mine Ride, located on the edge of Frontier Town. Again, I'm not ranking this at the bottom because I think it's a lame coaster. I like Cedar Creek Mine Ride. I try to ride it every time I go to the point. It's at the bottom of the list because it's the least thrilling. It's still a fun ride, but it's the least thrilling. Following the success of Matterhorn bobsleds at Disney, aero development was in high demand. Cedar Point, never wanting to waste an opportunity for successful rides, hired Aero to build Cedar Creek Mine Ride. Built for the 1969 season, Cedar Creek Mine Ride offers riders 2 lift hills, with the highest being 48 feet, with a top speed of 42 miles per hour. This hybrid Mine Ride steel wooden coaster offers a fun dive into a small lagoon and tight lateral turns. The tight helix section at the finale is surprisingly fun. An all-around fun ride. Next at number 13 is Corkscrew. Located on the Gemini Midway, this nostalgic coaster was at the time it was built a record-setting coaster. Built by Aero Development for the 1976 bicentennial season, it offered a record-setting 3 inversions, and it was also the first coaster to travel over a midway. After an 85-foot lift hill, it descends down to a max speed of 48 miles per hour. Goes into a vertical loop, continues on over the midway where you have the double corkscrew back into the final brake front. I'm putting this one down further on the list, not because it's not a fun ride, but because it's a bit rough. It hasn't aged well, and a person at my size, 250 pounds, is just a little rough. Number 12 is Blue Streak, located on the main midway. It pains me to place this so far down on the list because I honestly love this ride. This is the first roller coaster I ride whenever I go to Cedar Point. I'm not usually big on traditions, but this is one that I will follow. This was my very first roller coaster I ever rode on, and the first and only time I ever passed out on a roller coaster. My dad, who was sitting next to me, says, after we crested the lift hill, I said, "Oh shit," and went limp for the rest of the ride. I don't remember saying that, but I also don't remember much of the ride. Blue Streak is Cedar Point's oldest operating roller coaster. Built in 1964 by Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters, this is a true classic out-and-back wooden roller coaster. I have heard from a few coaster enthusiast reviews that they thought this ride was going to fall apart or that it was really rough. Look, I am 40 years old, bad knees, and in a state of constant soreness, and this ride does not kick my butt. The Mean Streak was way worse than this ride will ever be. The park's maintenance does a fabulous job of upkeep on this coaster. I'll put it this way. Since 2001, Blue Streak has not ranked lower than 49 on the Golden Ticket Award for top wooden roller coasters and has reached a high of 27 in 2013. I dare you to find me a wooden roller coaster as old as Blue Streak and tell me it is not as bumpy. Spoiler, you probably won't be able to. Blue Streak takes riders up 72 feet and speeds them along at 40 miles per hour over a traditional out-and-back gravity-fed design, with decent airtime in bunny hills and tight lateral turns to bring it back around over more airtime hills. I would put this coaster higher, but I can't allow my bias to get in the way of honest ranking. This is where I may lose some people. Number 11 for me is Ruguru, located on the Millennium Midway. Let me explain. I remember when this was called the Mantis. It was a stand-up version of the same track design. I will admit that the floorless sit-down version of this ride is much better than its predecessor, but it's not enough to boost it higher on this list. I still find myself having to press my head either back into the headrest or squash it to the sides of the headrest on those very tight turns and some of the inversions. Honestly, if they could find a restraint where your head doesn't bounce around, it would be a really fun ride. But alas, I find myself with an ear that is bright red from friction or a slight headache from the ride. The reason I placed this as high as I did is because of its many inversions, especially that very first 119-foot vertical loop. All of this aside, when this debuted by B&M for the 1996 season, it broke 4 records. It was the highest stand-up coaster at 145 feet, the fastest stand-up coaster at 60 miles per hour, the length of track at 3,900 feet, and lastly, the first stand-up roller coaster to feature a dive loop and incline dive. Continuing on with the controversy, starting the top 10 is Top Throw Dragster, located on the Gemini Midway. Yes, the launch from 0 to 120 miles per hour is something that needs to be experienced, and being the very first Intamin strata coaster at 420 feet is impressive, especially since you fall back to the ground 400 feet at a 90-degree straight down through a heartline twist. Here's the reason why I place it so low. Its 30-second ride time accompanied by its long queue times just isn't enough to want to ride it over and over again. I have ridden this ride twice. I've experienced the insane 0 to 120 mile per hour launch. It's fun, but the short duration and long times just make it one of those movies you watch and never rewatch because you know what's going to happen, and it wasn't that good to watch again. Number 9 for me is Iron Dragon, located on the Millennium Midway. I think suspended roller coasters are underrated. The whip effect you can get from this type of coaster design is next to nothing. Built by Aerodynamics in 1987, this coaster features 2 lift hills with the highest at 72 feet, and an impressive ride time of 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Riders are sped off through the treetops at a max speed of 40 miles per hour through 270-degree helix sections and tight side-to-side turns which whip you back and forth. This is a coaster I will always ride at some point in the day. The final dive turn over the lagoon through the mist is always exhilarating. The finale into the final brake run where you swing heavily from side to side is always fun. Gemini comes in at number 8, located on the Gemini Midway. I have never had a bad ride on Gemini, a classic out and back racing coaster. I have ridden both the blue train and the red train. I have both lost and won the race. There are 2 turns in which you can almost reach out and touch the fingertips of the people on the other train. The first lift hill ascends 118 feet and drops you 60 miles per hour into the heart of the wooden framework, making it feel like you're going to lose your hands if you hold them up. And there's a second toward the middle of the ride that seems to be even smaller hold than the first one. The twin helix section that each train takes in the opposite direction is a fantastic finale for this hybrid steel wooden roller coaster, designed by Aerodynamics in 1978, and is quoted by Ron Toomer as being his favorite ever design. Number 7 belongs to the iconic Magnum XL200, located on the Gemini Midway. 32 years ago, this debuted as the first ever hypercoaster, breaking the height record, standing at an impressive 205 feet tall. Built by Aerodynamics, designed by the legendary Ron Toomer, this coaster still ranks high on the Golden Ticket Awards. At 5,100 feet of track, in an iconic first drop into a top hat overlooking Lake Erie, it is no wonder that this is a favorite among coaster enthusiasts, setting 3 world records for the tallest steel roller coaster held until 1994 when Pepsi Max Big One opened up in Blackpool, England. It was also the fastest and longest drop for a steel roller coaster. Present day, even without Fastlane, the wait time for this ride is usually 15 to 20 minutes. A stark contrast to its heyday when it was a 3-hour plus wait time. Narrowly missing the top 5 is Raptor at number 6, located on the main Midway. In my opinion, B&M outdid themselves in the 1994 season when they built this ride, featuring a 137-foot lift hill which takes you on a long left-handed dive into a 100-foot tall vertical loop, where 5 more inversions await you, such as a zero-G roll and the iconic Cobra twist. Are there better inverted coasters in the world? Obviously. Banshee at Kings Island would be one of them. But it still has long queue lines, and it never fails to give great positive G's during that last helix section before the final brake run. Starting the top 5 is Gatekeeper, located on the Lakeside Midway. It was a toss-up between this and Millennium Force for the 5 spot. The reason Gatekeeper got it is because it doesn't give me that pucker factor standing in line like Millennium Force does due to the sheer height of that ride alone. That doesn't mean that Gatekeeper fails to deliver feelings of, what am I getting myself into? Watching the train go over the first element that B&M affectionately call the wing over drop really makes you consider your sanity. Having ridden both sides of this wing train, either side has its own unique, I'm going to fall out of this seat, please hurry up and go down the hill already. Seeing Gatekeeper roll through the 2 white pillar keyholes over the park's entrance makes you want to run right in and ride it all day. I don't care how many times you ride this ride, your brain will always tell you that you're going to smash right into those keyholes. I promise you that. This beautifully designed coaster broke several records, the longest and fastest, and featuring the tallest inverted drop, as well as most inversions. It's seriously a fantastic ride. As previously mentioned, Millennium Force comes in at number 4, located on the Millennium Midway. Opening May 14th in the year 2000, smashing 6 world records, including the first Giga Coaster, Millennium Force is one giant of a roller coaster. In typical Cedar Point fashion, they gave Intamin the reins for design, featuring an elevator cable lift which brings you to the top of a 310-foot lift hill and sends you over the edge at 13 miles per hour in about 30 seconds. As you crest over, you are shocked to be looking nearly straight down at an 80-degree near-vertical drop. You begin to fall back toward Earth, and just about the time it seems you will hit the ground, you pull out of the dive into a steep overbank turn. From then on, it's like you're flying through the back half of the park. This ride doesn't seem to lose speed until that final brake run. The airtime hills pop you up against your lap bar, and the dark tunnels make you want to drop your hands. This ride, for me, has all the winning elements. It's no wonder that from opening day until present day, it is ranked no less than number 2 on best steel coasters, with 10 of those years making it at the top spot. Look at the profile of Millennium Force. It looks like a cartoon. I think that's what Cedar Point was going for. Aside from the monstrous tower of Dragster looming in the background, the lift hill and first drop into the overbank turn is the first thing you see crossing the causeway. I really feel like Cedar Point wanted you to do a triple take, saying, "Is this real?" Number 3 goes to Valraven. Opening May 16th in 2016, this broke 6 records for dive coasters. The tallest dive coaster at 223 feet. The fastest dive coaster at 75 miles per hour. The longest dive coaster at 3,415 feet. The longest drop on a dive coaster at 214 feet. And the most inversions on a dive coaster at 3. Highest inversion on a dive coaster at 165 feet. It also broke 4 in-park records. Most roller coasters taller than 200 feet. 6, an impressive 6 roller coasters at Cedar Point over 200 feet. Most rides at one park, 71. Most steel roller coaster track at one park, 52,125 feet of track, steel track. Most roller coaster track at the park, a total of 60,110 feet. I did not know Valraven was taller than Magnum until after I'd read the sign. At first glance, it doesn't seem as tall as Magnum. I think that's because Magnum has that giant lift hill that seems to tower over the lake. Valraven, in contrast, has a very steep lift hill, so you get to the peak much sooner. Yet another B&M contribution to Cedar Point. Valraven's first drop is intense. This is my first dive coaster to go on, so perhaps I'm a bit biased in this review, but even if there are better drops, this one is still fun. It's also neat to stand under the first drop at the pathway and wave at the front row riders before they take the plunge. It really kicked off the day for me, being the second ride to go on right after Blue Streak. Number 1 and number 2 were so hard to rank, but after some careful deliberation, number 2 goes to Maverick, located in Frontier Town. For the life of me, I can't explain why Maverick has done so poorly in the Golden Ticket Award for Best Steel Coaster. Intamin truly created a masterpiece using their medium of steel. In the world of giant mega coasters that need aircraft warning lights at the top of the lift hill, Maverick just barely squeaks by the 100-foot mark. But this ride does way more than Fury 325 or Intimidator 305 could do. Opening in 2007, this Blitz coaster didn't smash any world records, but it certainly broke the mold for this style of coaster. Being propelled up the lift hill by an LSM launch system at 30 miles per hour is an experience all in and of itself. Then being thrown over the 95-degree past vertical drop is indescribable. I think my stomach is still somewhere back on the lift hill. I know I said Millennium Force doesn't lose speed, but somehow this little pony seems to pick up speed. The rate in which you whip around corners and fly over the speed hills is almost unbelievable. Watching the POV, it would seem that you would walk away with a neck injury. But in stark contrast, when riding it, it seems as if you had the ability to turn like that all of the time. Then you get to the mid-course run, where you enter a shack, coming to a very brief crawl. Then you are thrown against your seat as you launch from 0 to 70 in 3 seconds, out into an overbank turn over a bunny hill that lifts you out of your chair. Flying low over the lagoon at breakneck speed is incredible. I can't say enough positive things about this ride. I will wait long queue lines to hop on this one. And on to the top spot. Number 1 goes to none other than Steel Vengeance, located in Frontier Town. Cedar Point handed RMC a blank check and said, have at it. Opening in 2018, Steel Vengeance broke 10 world records. Let me go down the list. World's tallest hybrid roller coaster at 205 feet, making it the first ever hyper hybrid. World's fastest hybrid roller coaster at 74 miles per hour. World's steepest drop on a hybrid coaster at 90 degrees. World's longest drop on a hybrid coaster at 200 feet. World's longest hybrid coaster at 5,740 feet. Most inversions on a hybrid roller coaster at 4. Fastest airtime hill on a hybrid roller coaster at 74 miles per hour. Most airtime on a hybrid roller coaster at 27.2 seconds, almost a half a minute. Most airtime on any roller coaster at 27 seconds. Wow. I don't have the proper words to describe what this coaster does to you, but I will try. Standing in line for this ride, you were treated by around every 2 minutes or so the sound of iconic clinking as the train hits the lift hill. You listen and watch for the train to near the top. Then the screams follow shortly. Watching the trains fall straight down into a steep pullout over a speed hill, up and over a top hat in a blink of an eye, it makes your brain start to ponder, what is this ride going to be like? And before you know it, you are locked into a lap bar only and dispatched from the station out over 2 little bunny hills that don't even count for the nearly 30 seconds of airtime that you're going to experience. And that familiar clanking is heard, and you know in just a short time you will take the plunge. This last season was my first time ever riding this ride. Standing at the gate waiting for a train to come in, I struck up a conversation with a couple who were going to be in front of us, asking what rides they had ridden, if they had ridden this one before, and they said they had not. Like me and my brother, this would be their first time. Our trains come in, and we hop in, and we are locked into place. And I mean secured, not moving an inch, like cranberry sauce in a can not coming out if you flip me upside down. I mean, I suppose that's really the point. So as we crested the hilltop, when I tell you the guy in front of me looked as if he was trying to leap out of his seat, when as just described, you cannot move, my brain went into maximum overdrive trying to quickly process what was going to happen. Whatever computations my brain did, it wasn't enough. Being pulled over that hill and then looking straight down, I understood why the guy in front of me was trying to escape his chair. Not because he wanted to, because he was forced to. My hoodie then flew off my head with the force of the wind rushing by, and I was pressed against my lap bar as you fly over a speed hill at over 70 miles per hour. Hitting the top hat with an overbank to the left while turning to the right is a feat of physics I didn't know that was possible, only to do it again on a second hill, but even sharper. The inversions feel like they're never ending. There is a section toward the finale where I don't know where up or down is. Usually pulling into the station, I clap or holler my approval, not for Steely. All I could do was laugh hysterically. Exiting off the train, my legs wouldn't work right, and I still couldn't stop from laughing. It is truly one hell of an experience that I am looking forward to doing over and over again. With 2 family coasters, 15 thrill-seeking coasters, and 72 attractions all in all, Cedar Point has something for everyone. The placement of the top 2 coasters at the rear of the park opens a previously, deserted part of the island. Snake River Falls, Whitewater Landing, and Mean Streak were the big draws before, and Mean Streak lived up to its name, the brutal ride. Now you have the top 2 coasters that are themed around Frontier Town. For nearly 30 years I have been going to this park, and now being a season pass holder, I plan on going many more times in the future. This park not only has thrill-seeking rides, but plenty of flat rides for the whole family. Kids from 36 inches tall can have just as much fun as kids that are 52 inches tall. When I say that you will have a great time no matter what thrill level you desire, I promise you that I am not lying. You have the Vossman seal of approval. Guaranteed. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this is not my usual content, but I felt compelled to make it after watching a few highly critical reviews on coasters to this park. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.